Hi everyone, how are you? It's lovely to see so many people come back after lunch and actually take a seat. I've been to so many events where there's just hardly anyone in the audience, they're just always talking. So thank you very much. My name's Joshua Scigala. I've been developing digital economies or alternative economies for a very long time, since 2001, and been working trying to solve this double spend problem, of course, naively, and it didn't work, couldn't solve it, dropped it for 5 years, and then in 2010 came across Toshi's white paper. I thought, wow, she's done it, this is it. And I've been falling down this amazing rabbit hole ever since. In 2013, I lost a hell of a lot of money in Mt. Gox. And this was, for those that don't know, one of the largest exchanges. It was pretty much the only exchange, apart from a couple of others, around. And they went into a natural Ponzi scheme after banks froze their accounts in the back end, and they didn't tell anyone, and they got hacked a little bit as well, and there was some scams and all sorts of stuff. But the point is, they were intransparent. And it inspired me to create the most transparent exchange in the world by creating a transparency protocol for exchanges called the Glassbooks Protocol. So yeah, that was Vaultoro, and we allow people to trade between Bitcoin and physical allocated bullion, gold, sitting in high security vaulting facility, fully insured and fully audited, and then trade back to Bitcoin when you want to spend that gold. So yeah, this was the Glassbooks Protocol, and so on and so forth. But I'm here to talk about stablecoins, or as I like to call them, fiat coins, because really at the end of the day, they're not stable. They're, stable's where you hold donkeys. And really the notion of a stablecoin is that it's pegged to a fiat currency, right? And I got into crypto to get away from fiat. Well, hence my t-shirt. It should say central banks, really. But so what's wrong with stablecoins? Well, we're really looking at money in general. And a lot of people have said to me in the past, I grew up thinking, oh, money is the root of all evil. This was the big thing. Well, in 2000, I ran the world's first swap exchange where people could swap clothes with each other. And so it was this alternative economy. I realized it was a terrible way of a marketplace to work, because if I have a t-shirt that you really like, but you have nothing I like, then the deal falls through. And this is terrible, right? So you want a token in between that you can help move around that. So really, the root of all evil is more the creation of money. How is it created? How is it structured? Who controls it? This can be either evil or not. So I want to take you on this little journey here of this island where there is no money. People are just trading, they're bartering chickens for coconuts. And we have here, one day, this little mafia wakes up and goes, or government, whatever you want to call them, wake up and say, we're going to create this new thing called money. And Quentin goes, oh, okay, right, well, what is it all about? And they explain it, right, And Quentin says, right, great, I'll take it. So how do I get this first bit of money? So the mafia says, well, we lend it to you. So he goes, oh, I'll give you 10. He said, okay, well, I'll give you 10, but you owe us 12 back. And Quentin says, hang on a minute, but there is only 10. How am I meant to pay you 12 back? That doesn't work. So, well, you have to wait for Uma here to also borrow some money and maybe do a trade a coconut or two. So that's what happens. Takes out debt, interest of 2, liability of 12. Uma does the same. They do a bit of a trade. And now Quentin has got the 12 he needs to pay the bank back. He does. He's debt-free. He's out of it. But look what we have now. Uma now has 8. There's only $8 on the island now. But the whole island owes 12. So every time there's a new trade happen, the amount of total assets goes down, but what's owed stays up. So if we zoom out on that island, it looks a little bit like Cyprus and Greece. We've all seen hyperinflations also in fiat currencies, right? The obvious one that everyone talks about in the crypto space right now is Venezuela. It's absolutely tragic. It's absolutely tragic. And Did you know the average lifespan of a pure paper fiat currency is only 27 years? It's only 27 years. It's a very, very short time. Here's an amazing picture that went viral on the internet. This was a store clerk in Venezuela in 1998 and the same store clerk in 2018. It's a very, very sad picture. So let's talk about gold. So here we see that the dollar in 1900 was 100%, and gold's purchasing power is here. This is the purchasing power. And we saw when gold went off the standard in 1930s, we see a massive drop, first of all. And then in 1971, when it truly globally went off the gold standard, it dropped again, and gold started skyrocketing. And then in 2001, when everybody woke up and the trade towers fell and everyone realized that the world isn't as safe as they thought it was, we see a huge spike in purchasing power of gold. And as we see, the dollar's lost 98.2% of its purchasing power. So anything pegged to this over 100 years doesn't look too stable. So what's actually wrong with fiat-backed so-called stablecoins? So let's take Tether, for instance. Tether has in it $2.8 billion, and this is held in 2 bank accounts in Malaysia. They're not really audited properly. Even if they're audited properly, I talked to one of the auditors. He couldn't really tell me much because he was under contract, but he got fired before he could properly audit Tether. But let's presume that all the dollars backing Tether's there. Let's presume it's all there. The fact of the matter is Malaysia has a 5% reserve requirement from banks. So that means the bank can speculate with 95% of the funds. Over here, they're gambling, having fun. And on the Tether side, everyone's speculating in the crypto markets. So you're speculating on both sides. What could possibly go wrong, folks? You know, people then say, well, what if they used a more appropriate bank, whether they used a really big bank, maybe Deutsche Bank or something like that. As we saw, Lehman Brothers was the largest banking facility in the world. Friday it was there, Monday, dead, gone. These banks aren't as stable as everyone thinks. They're really they're intransparent. Nobody knows really how much they're liquid or not. It's really, really intransparent. And even they don't know. They've got so many strange tools and protocols and investments that they can't even keep track. The other problem is, if this 2.8 billion that's sitting in 2 bank accounts, let's say they're in an American bank account, like the twins have there, this is only insured to 200, actually it's 200K each bank account. So from 2.8 billion, if something happens to the banking system, they're insured to 200K. What the hell's that all about? How are you going to cover that entire economy based in the crypto land? So this is another problem, is that banks generally, as part of their business model, freeze bank accounts all the time. It happens all the time. And if you've been in crypto long enough, you'll see that that friends have their accounts frozen if they deal in crypto. It happens all the time. And what happens is the bank still gets to have fun with that money. They still get to speculate. It's just frozen. So it's no skin off a bank's nose. They'll just freeze the account and keep on speculating and having fun. Meanwhile, you spend a year trying to get it back. And this is actually a very big problem with exchanges that deal with fiat, is that banks constantly are closing their accounts, or freezing their accounts, I should say. And during that time, they go into natural Ponzi schemes because they don't want to tell anyone that our bank account's been frozen, so they don't want people to withdraw too much fiat, and they're trying to deal with stuff. Sometimes the bank comes back online, or they manage to transfer it to a new bank, and they can get out of this Ponzi sort of cycle downwards. But it's a very, very real problem. And with stablecoins, if they have these large amounts of money sitting there, what really happens? It's not really pegged anymore if it's frozen. The other problem is government seizures. So what if someone uses these stablecoins on a dark market to buy some nefarious things, and the state swoops in, busts them and goes, hey, what are you guys paying with? Oh, it's pegged to this money that's sitting in this bank account. Close it or freeze it. Then you've basically, if you have some bad actors, and look, everyone's talking about, oh, well, but this stable coin is regulated. What possibly could a regulator say if on CNN one day is saying, this person bought some child porn and some guns off of this dark market with this regulated coin? The regulator will have to do something, and that is yet to be seen what will happen. So it's a very interesting topic of what will happen to these stablecoins if there are bad actors. You know, the biggest thing comes with allocated versus unallocated. And this means that if you deal with fiat, everything is unallocated. The bank owns the money. When you put money into a bank, it's not your money anymore. It's not legally your money. It's their money. They promise to pay you back whenever you want it. Usually it works, sometimes it doesn't. The other problem with stablecoins based on fiat is that in economic crises, it can be seen to be very, very unpatriotic to hold the currency of another state. So I have some Russian friends that are in their 30s or mid-30s and have seen 3 currency collapses. And the only reason their families have gotten through that is because they've held some gold and some American dollars under their mattress, but they could not talk about the American dollars, not even to other family, because if it got out, it could be seen as very, very dangerous that you're holding the enemy's currency to hedge against yours. And we see that now with Erdogan, is warning everyone to get rid of their US dollars and telling them to buy gold. The other type of stablecoin that's around is the MakerDAO, the DAI, these sort of algorithmic coins. See, the problem with this is you cannot program in the price of something. The price of something is derived by a market, and the market will always tell the price of something. The market is far too powerful. If you have a little glass house saying that your glass house here, it will protect from the weather. Look, it only takes a massive hailstorm to smash that glass house. So yeah, you might be safe from some weather, you might keep the greens growing, but at the end of the day, the weather is far too powerful. And the markets are far too powerful to programmatically run that stuff. And the MakerDAO, how it works is that you over-collateralize a contract. So you throw in far more Ethereum than the $1 that it's worth, and that will buffer any fluctuations. But there's still these black swan events. What if Ethereum somehow has a major bug and it collapses down to $1 for a day and back? What happens to these stablecoins, these over-collateralized? No one knows. So they're very interesting, but they're still very, very new. The DigX DAO, this is a gold-backed stablecoin. This is good. This is getting closer to a good stablecoin because it's a commodity-backed thing, but they're not fully fungible. The problem is that every time that you send a Bitcoin, it splits, and you start eventually. In fact, if you've got some Bitcoin in your wallet, you have a couple of Satoshis from the 10,000 Bitcoin pizza transaction that happened. Because what happens is eventually it fragments. All these coins start fragmenting smaller and smaller pieces. And what happens is that if you have a bad actor in the DigX DAO, that eventually everyone that has a little bit of DigX will have a little bit of every single bar that's in the vault. And this is a problem because if you have a bad actor that does something on a nefarious black market, the cops swoop in, the authorities, and say, hey, what's this contract paying? Oh, they own this bar, this bar, this bar, this bar. It might just be fractions of each bar. So they'll start just confiscating each bar. So what we're doing is building a fully backed token based on gold. Because gold can be allocated down to the bar so that any authority or a bad actor uses the gold, they can only take that single bar, because single bars, serialized, can be allocated legally to their property to the users, to that private key. And what we're doing is defragmenting. So every time you send some money, it goes into a smart contract, defragments, and sends the biggest chunk of bar to that user. So that if there is a bad actor, they can only confiscate that bar. And we're dealing with bailment contracts, smart bailment contracts. And this is a multi-token economy. Skip past this stuff. Be totally allocated protocol. But the real thing that I'm coming to here is that gold is something that has 3,000 years of understanding, that it's decentralized in its issuance. It's also very, very well allocated, and it's well understood. It's got very good legal frameworks. It's not like a bank account that's wholly owned by one person. And we have really good standards of insurance and auditing behind gold. So BDO is a really great auditor. It's been around for many, many years. And gold isn't seen as unpatriotic. Gold is Erdogan said, buy gold. Get rid of your dollars, buy gold. He didn't say, buy lira. He said, buy gold. So we're launching this new exchange here. There's some of the screen grabs just for you guys. Head over that. But yeah, thanks very much. That's the end of my talk. If you have any questions about stablecoins, we've got 4 minutes, 34 seconds to go. Any questions? There it is, one at the back.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering, back from New York, and New York is saying that it's going to be going, or United States in general, is going to be going through the next round of recession because it's just due on the technical side every 10 years. So why did you choose gold versus silver versus other commodity that might not be fluctuating? Because to some extent, if it creates a mass amount of sell-off, how is that going to impact the exchange overall? And in addition, you see exchanges like One Broker being shut down, even though they were trading commodities on their front as well.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about crypto is that it allows for us, for instance, Vaultoro, we're open. At the moment, we're just dealing with one vaulting facility that's in Switzerland. It's one of the largest vaulting facilities in Europe. But the good thing is, if we have vaulting facilities in London, Hong Kong, Singapore, around the world, then people can diversify into other geographical regions that aren't having such intense, let's say, recessions. The thing with gold is that it's been there for 3,000 years. It's been through thick and thin, through every war and every nightmare that the human condition has thrown at gold. It's come out the other end holding value. That cannot be said for fiat. Every time there's a war, fiat gets absolutely decimated if it's a local issuer in that war zone, or it doesn't even have to be a war. It can just be an economical war. So I think the good thing about crypto is it allows for the gold to be a lot more, for people, the normal person on the streets, to be able to buy somewhere, realize, look, there's something a bit dodgy. The Hong Kong's getting a little bit, I don't know, the Chinese government is getting a little bit tyrannical. I might sell there and buy in Switzerland, who's been fairly neutral through 2 world wars. So by allowing you to diversify amongst multiple geographical regions, I think could protect from this sort of thing. Any other questions?
Does the regulator in the UK require you to have the same KYC requirements of a typical exchange, even if someone funds their account with Bitcoin?
So no, the great thing with gold is that it's a good. It's not a financial instrument. I mean, we all know it is a financial instrument, but it's regulated as a good. So if you go and buy a television, which is also a good, you don't have to show KYC and all this stuff, right? So the EU law specifies that you can spend $5,000 a day buying stuff without showing KYC documents. So a car, above that, you need to show documents. The thing is, we ran for the first 2 years back in 2015 without KYC up to $5,000 a day. But in November of 2017, we were getting such massive volume that even the largest gold supplier in Europe was saying, well, we need more time. We didn't realize this was going to happen. And they said, look, you just got far too much gold. It's allocated to people's name as their legal property. If someone dies, their estate's management's going to have to try and prove that this email belonged to the deceased. So we've started taking KYC purely for the fact that this gold is allocated to their name as their property. That means if something happens to Vaultoro, it doesn't matter. Liquidators can't even touch our clients' assets because it's not on our books. It's the client's assets. And this is a really important part of gold.
Hello, I have two questions. One question is the coin or token you have is packed by gold in how much percent? 100 or 80 or?
No, so we don't have a coin at the moment. At the moment, it's just it's a settlement layer. The settlement is done in our back end. In February next year, we are looking at launching a token backed on gold, and this is what we were talking about, and it'll be 100% one-to-one.
And on which blockchain?
We're still looking. We're still deciding on that. Yeah, it's interesting. We're looking at the Bitcoin Lightning Network, funnily enough, because the Lightning Network it's interesting. There's a protocol called the RGB protocol on Lightning. The thing is with Lightning, it's interesting. You can't really have tokens. You can't have non-fungible tokens on Lightning Network because you're giving IOUs to you're transferring something, and then someone else is transferring something else, and then someone else is transferring something else. So you can't really follow a token through. But someone's working on that. The other thing we're looking at is maybe EOS, Ethereum. Maybe it's probably not likely.
I'm not a fan of Ethereum. You can also take a look on RSK. You know?
RSK is also very interesting. Yeah, it's just I would like to see RSK solutions with the Lightning Network.
I would more prefer RSK than Lightning.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for talking.
Great.
All right. Thank you very much, Joshua.
Thank you very much.
Amazing presentation.